Hi, and welcome to Community Hotline. I'm Monica Weitzel, and we're here in Gresham at MetroEast Community Media. Thanks for joining us tonight. We have a great show tonight. We're going to start off talking with the Center for the Performing Arts about their Third Thursdays program. We've had people on here before talking about Third Thursdays. This is, I believe, the third episode or third program in this series. And tonight I have with me to talk about this Betsy Hatton, the CEO of Portland Columbia Symphony. Thank you for being here. And Kenny Regan, who is a composer who is going to be involved in this program. So I'm happy to have you both here. Betsy, if you can, clarify for me, the Center for the Performing Arts has put on this series now for a while, and did they come to you and ask you if you wanted to be part of this program?
They did. Actually, this is their first year of putting on this particular series. I sat on the board of directors for, I don't know, 8 years, and I kind of am taking a little bit of a hiatus. But they asked if the orchestra would be willing to do one of the segments. And of course, an orchestra has a great big footprint, and we couldn't possibly fit all of us into the Historical Society.
Historical Society in downtown Gresham, right.
So Kenny had written a piece for us that we used at one of our smaller chamber music programs. We call it PCSO Dissected, and it's little groups out of the orchestra that come together for an evening of chamber music.
Lovely.
And he comes to us sort of as one of our orchestral family because his mother plays oboe in the orchestra.
Oh, so that's how you kind of came to be part of this.
Right. So she sent me a clip of some of his music, and I said, maybe we could do this for PCSO Dissected with a small group. And then I suggested it to Center for the Arts to be able to have this sort of symphonic gift unwrapped. Of course, it's not a symphony. It's going to be a small chamber group of 4 instruments, wind instruments.
But have they performed this before?
They have not.
Oh, so this will be will this be the debut of that piece?
Yes, it will be.
Oh, very exciting.
And they're going to sight read it, and this is what's interesting. They will not have seen the music before. So they will see the music, play it for the first time.
So there's no practice ahead of time.
Well, they're all excellent musicians.
Well, I know, but okay, this is where my lack of musical knowledge comes in, because I am not a musician at all. I was talking to Kenny about that a little bit ahead of time. I have no musical talent background at all. That just amazes me that people can even do that. They can come in and just pick up music.
Well, the whole idea, at least, I mean, this was the way I conceived it, and I hope he can pull it off, was that they see the music for the first time, and then they play it. He explains it, works with them, and see the difference between the starting point and a finished product.
So the audience will actually get to be part of that whole process.
Exactly, to see how they collaborate with the composer, see how they collaborate with each other.
That's great.
And there'll probably be some mistakes and maybe a misnote here and there. And
but that's the way it would be.
That's the way it would be.
Yeah.
And
which makes it more interesting anyway, because it's real.
It's real.
Yeah.
But that's what live music is.
Yeah.
It's always real. And it's never the same twice, even though you may have played a piece 6, 7 times in performance. There's always something that goes better, goes worse, was louder, you didn't expect.
Right.
So.
Wow. Well, this is very exciting. This is even more interesting than I thought it was. I like this. So, Kenny, you, from what I have heard, music's been a part of your life, well, probably since before you were born, I'm imagining.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. So, tell me about your musical background.
Well, my parents are musicians, and more specifically, they're music educators.
Okay.
So, from my earliest memories, I've been listening to music, engaging in music. And I've always been involved in music. It's always been a part of my life.
And what instruments do you play?
I play jazz piano and I play oboe.
Okay. That's what your mom plays too, is that right?
Yeah, that is.
Yeah, okay. So, and when did you start playing? When did you start playing the piano? I bet that was first, right?
The piano was first. I started formal piano lessons at the age of 5. And I started oboe a few years after that when I was 8.
Wow, that's young. Isn't it for the oboe? I don't know. Oboe seems like it would be a difficult instrument
to
play.
It's a little bit young for the oboe.
Yeah.
It's not the youngest there has been,
But now, is your focus not so much on the playing as the composing, or is that where your passion lies?
My passion is in composing. That is where I see myself in the future. That is my dream. I want to keep playing because I love playing, but composition is my focus.
So tell me about that. When did you start composing? When was it? What was the first time you ever put pen to paper and started, putting the notes down on paper?
The first time I started composing seriously was a few months before I started the oboe, so when I was 8 in second grade.
Whoa. Okay.
And very simple pieces. Almost, it's kind of like, think modern film music, but just for piano or just for oboe. Very simple, almost pop music.
Yeah.
But that was where I began.
Wow. So now you've evolved quite a bit.
Yes.
Your composition skills have skyrocketed. Tell me a little bit about the process of composing, because I find that fascinating. When we were listening to the music as it was playing just when the show was starting, you were saying things about the layering and the melody, and it's all over my head, but it seems like there's so much involved, especially with something like a symphony. With an orchestra, there are so many parts. How do you even begin?
Well, that is the question, because sometimes there is no real beginning. Sometimes these pieces just appear in your head and are there for years and years. You don't have any idea where they come from or why they're there. And the process of composing is sometimes just a matter of putting the pieces together. It's all in your head. You just have to know how to make that jigsaw puzzle come into a coherent form. Sometimes it's very methodical. Sometimes you sit down and you write music. Oh, this should go here, this should go here. This is what I need to do to finish a piece. Sometimes the whole piece is mapped out in your head already. I already know what this is going to sound like. I'm just writing it down. And sometimes it's just improvising. You sit down at a piano or at the oboe and you play random notes and hope something sounds good.
Wow. Do you find that you usually start with one instrument and kind of start with that and then add other instruments in, or is it always different?
It's always different. If I'm just writing for piano, I always start with the piano,
Right.
because that's the instrument I'm writing for. Or if I'm writing for a solo instrument, that's how I'll approach it. But if I'm writing for, say, an orchestra, I don't just start with one instrument, because the point of an orchestral piece is to have the instruments reacting to one another, relating to one another. So you have to think about all the instruments at once in that respect.
Wow, that's overwhelming. Like you say, it's like a puzzle. It's kind of mathematical, isn't it? I mean, it seems like it's actually very mathematical.
It's all mathematical.
That's probably why I don't. No,
Well, I mean, someone described rhythm as sound divided by time. And if that's how you think it, it's all extremely mathematical.
Yeah.
And music is one of the few endeavors where you use both halves of the brain at the same time, the mathematical and the artistic. And they've documented the fact that both halves are used at the same time in musicians.
And music is something that I don't know anybody who doesn't enjoy music of some kind. Not everybody likes the same kinds of music, but everybody enjoys music. But not everybody can play it or compose it, certainly. That's really a skill. Have you done any composing?
No.
No.
I play what's on the page, and
You
I
play
can
what's
do
on the
that.
page. So there was a piece of sheet music that had Scheherazade.
Yes.
I mean, I look at that, and that is baffling to me to even figure out what this is.
And that's just one. If you would see the score for Scheherazade, that's a second violin part. You have a first violin part, viola, cello, bass. Those are just the strings. Then you have first oboe, second oboe, first flute, second flute, piccolo. All of these things are all, and then all the brass instruments and percussion, all of them are on one page, all lined up like this.
So when you, Kenny, have what's the most amount of instruments have you incorporated into a composition? Do you do it that way, or does that make sense? I don't even know if that question makes sense.
Of course it makes sense. You always have to think about who's going to be playing your music and how many people are in their groups. Now, if I'm, say, writing for an orchestra, if it's a large orchestra, you can be writing for 30 or more different instruments at one time. And of course that means that you'll be writing for maybe 60 players or 80 players, because there are several instruments playing each part. So
that's a lot of work. So how long does it take to do something like that? I mean, okay, so there's one that you're going to they'll be performing, the Portland Columbia Symphony Orchestra will be performing. How long of a process was that for you?
Well, that piece is for 4 instruments. That was for...
so it's much smaller than...
It's a much smaller group, a quartet, and I believe I just composed that one in a day.
Really? Okay, piece of cake. It's my lunch hour. Let me just knock out a symphony here. That's pretty amazing. But something much more complex is going to take a lot longer.
Oh, much longer.
Yeah.
Depending if it's say a 5-minute piece for orchestra. If it's that magical moment when everything's mapped out in my head, I know what it's supposed to be. Then sometimes it only takes a week or less.
Wow.
But if I'm actually actively composing it, creating something fresh that I've never heard in my head before, it can take months. It can sit in my head for years, and I have no idea where to go with it.
Wow. You say for years. You're what? You're still in high school, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm still a senior.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. It really is. I'm very impressed. Now, this Third Thursday's program, this is going to take place, just so we don't leave out these important details. This is going to be taking place at the Gresham Historical Society Museum, which is right downtown Gresham. You've been in there? You've seen it? Have you seen it yet?
No.
It's a great site. I mean, it really is. It's intimate. And so I think that's a great location for this. And that is going to be taking place on
Thursday, which is a good day for Third Thursday.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Kind of catchy that way.
Yeah, that's very clever.
Thursday the 20th.
February 20th. Okay, and this will be from what time? 6:30?
Starts at 6:30, and at 6:30 we kind of have a time where we just mingle and have some light refreshments, and then the program will start at 7, and there'll be time for people to chat with Kenny after he's, a question and answer period at the end.
After the whole performance is done.
After the
That's
whole
what I thought,
performance is
'cause
done.
people are going to want to ask you questions,
Ask
I'm
questions
sure.
and-
Yeah.
And we do have some sponsors I would like to
Okay,
to
who do
mention.
you have sponsoring this time?
Well, Gresham Ford,
Oh, they're good.
Gresham Chamber of Commerce, as well as Central Market and KMO Real Estate.
Great.
And there are some discount coupons if you stop by any of those places that are available, like
I think
that.
they're like this. So
Yes.
they're a very reasonably priced series, but we'll have the information on the screen so people can know where and how to get their tickets to go to this. But it's been a fun series so far, so I don't think anybody's going to be let down on this. Anything you want to tell us about this performance that we should look forward to especially?
Well, in this performance, it's something I've never done before in public, to actually go through the rehearsal process in front of a live audience. And I really have no idea what's going to happen, because it's always different, as Betsy said earlier. But I think it will be very exciting to see the reactions of the musicians and how that process unfolds.
I think so too. I think that's going to be probably the best part of it, is just to watch that whole process. I think it'll be a real learning experience for a lot of people. And Betsy, what else can you tell us? We only have a couple minutes left, so what else should we know? Tell me something about the Portland Columbia Symphony that maybe our viewers don't know.
Well, Portland Columbia Symphony has been in the Metro-East County area. This will be our finishing up our 9th season.
Wow.
It doesn't seem
Yeah,
possible.
I can't believe that.
At Mount
already.
Hood Community
Yeah.
College, we have Sunday afternoon performances, matinee performances, so that they're kid-friendly and we old folks can get home before it gets too dark, and all those those kinds of things.
Good.
And we always have room for anybody who wants to come and see us. And one thing that I try to dispel the notion, I don't use the word classical music, I use the word symphonic music. Okay. And when people say, well, I don't understand it, I always say, well, do you go to the movies? Do you like the soundtrack? You like Raiders of the Lost Ark?
Yeah.
That's a symphony
right.
up there playing that music, and that's what we play.
I remember the first time I figured out as a kid that I was watching like Bugs Bunny or something, some cartoon, and listening to the music and going, wow.
That's an opera.
Yeah. The music,
Mighty Mouse. That was all opera.
There was opera
arias,
and there was symphony, and the music is so integral to the even to the cartoons that it was sort of a real awakening for me as a kid.
I think everybody my generation, the first aria they ever heard was, in Mighty Mouse.
Here I come to save you.
Yes, exactly. All the great music
great.
from that.
Well, thank you both for being on here tonight. The time went fast. This is fascinating. I hope I can make it to the performance, because that really sounds great. So thank you very much,
Love
Kenny.
to see
Thank you,
there.
Betsy.
You're
Thanks.
welcome.
And thanks for watching this first episode of Community Hotline. We'll be right back in a few minutes with more good stuff, so don't go away.